A far-off sound, the beat of an African drum, as his thoughts kept turning to scenes like this. African voodoo, dark idolatry. Young Albert Schweitzer had heard and read of such things, but they had always seemed far away. Yet now, as he stood on the brink of a great career in Europe, he felt that God was calling him to Africa. Why? What could he do to help these people? Could he destroy the heathen idols? No. Could he heal the sick? No. He was not a doctor. He could do nothing. And yet, young Albert Schweitzer came to realize he could do something. He could help these benighted beings. He could become a doctor. Answer this silent plea. Modern medicine would drive out voodoo. Reverence for life and compassion for pain. Christianity would replace heathen fetishes. Spring 1913. The Agawi River, French Equatorial Africa. A land so hot, so humid, that physical work, even for Africans, was exhausting. To come to this jungle, Albert Schweitzer has abandoned his European career. He has studied medicine for 7 long years, written books, and preached and given organ concerts to finance all the cost of this trip. And now, as those he has come to help watch with suspicion, he goes on and on into a hostile country where human life is cheap. In years gone by, thousands were led away from here as slaves. There were cannibals, then white traders with alcohol, brutality, disease. The Africans who survive know only one thing: fear. Many lived like wild people. The arrival of a white man meant danger, and fearful, they fade away into the fastness of the... The drums have carried the word ahead to a village. It seems deserted. But no, the witch doctors have gathered to cast their spells, and he is told to go away. The drums have been heard far up in the mountains, and warriors are gathering in response to their call. An old chief tells the warriors it is time to drive out the white man. He reminds them of all the evils the whites have brought to their land: slavery, drink, disease, death. This newest white stranger is surely bringing more cruelty and oppression. Stand up and fight. I will stand. Who is with me? Is there only one brave man among all of you? Stand. Have you forgotten how our forefathers were made into slaves? And so, worked up into a fever of hate caused by fear, the mountain men prepare to resist the white stranger. To turn him back, if all else fails, kill him. And yet at Lambaréné, Albert Schweitzer's destination, the drums soon send another message into the jungle. This man has come to help, not to harm us. And soon, erstwhile savages have come to be builders, expressing their joy in a happy chant. At first, it is hard to understand what these buildings are for. Wards, clinics, operating rooms, he says. And it is even harder to understand the white man when he talks of living water, and water which a man may drink and never thirst again. Strange. And yet in time, a man can see the white stranger's purpose, for the little mission at Lambaréné has undergone a wonderful change. Now it not only gives hope, but health. For the man the Africans call Oganga, meaning one who works magic with shining tools, he has reached their souls by healing their sick, tormented bodies. And to him, on the rivers that are Africa's highways, have come people from 100 miles around. Nurses and doctors have arrived from Europe. Africans have been trained to help, and treatment of all kinds is given to all ages. Here is a child with a simple but painful tropical skin infection, and a smile when it's all over. And a woman with a complex bone disease that may require months of treatment. Here are people who require not treatment, but preventive medicine. Oldsters who watch doubtfully, and youngsters who take their medicine with complete trust. Sometimes an old man sits for a long time, searching the faces of the others as if expecting disaster to strike them. And then, at last convinced, he limps to take his place in the line. And of course, there are babies, always babies. To them, special care is given. For with them, of course, rests the future of Africa. Patients pay their way by helping with hospital and kitchen work. Women find time for hairdos in the style of their tribes. And so life goes on in Lambaréné beneath the equatorial sun, serene and in harmony, with peace and charity for all. But in Europe, meanwhile, dark clouds gather. In 1914, suddenly as a tropic storm, comes World War I. Albert Schweitzer is an Alsatian, a German citizen. This part of Africa belongs to France. Eventually, he is returned to Europe for internment. And with the doctor gone, the old voodoo religion returns as a way of treating the sick. When merciful death at last arrives, weird processions and barbaric dances are staged to drive away the evil spirits. Even a gun has a place in this voodoo ceremony. Albert Schweitzer, interned in far-off Europe, can do nothing to halt such pagan practices. But he can recall the aspects of African life that will never change and write of them with affection. Hear his words. Water and primeval forest, who can describe the impression they make? Fanciful pictures of antediluvian landscapes come to life. Out of every vista, water mirrors sparkle. And with the beauty of Africa, he recalls the plight of its people. Once more, his words, spoken and written time and time again. Millions and millions live without help or hope of it. Who can describe the injustice and cruelties that in the course of centuries they have suffered at the hands of Europeans? Every day there prevails in many a far-off hut a despair which Europe could banish. Charity, more than that, an obligation not to be shirked. Now it is 1923, and drums are sending out news again. Great news. Oganga is coming back to Africa. In the villages, there is a sudden stir of hope. Eyes brighten with excitement. Help is coming for the helpless. Hurry, hurry, Oganga is almost here. And so, almost before Dr. Schweitzer has completed his long journey, canoes are gliding into shore at Lambaréné, bringing those who have suffered through the years of his absence, those who have refused to submit to witchcraft and black magic, those who have prayed in the way he taught them that he would one day return. Life has come back to the mission by the river, and because the river means so much to these people, at a Sunday service, it becomes the theme of a sermon. Hear Dr. Schweitzer's words. As our river begins, it is swift and tumultuous. There are turbulent currents and dangerous rapids. It is a savage stream, but the river flows onward. And the farther it flows, the broader and stronger and more tranquil it becomes. The Holy Spirit is like that. At first, there is little sign of its presence in the savage hearts of men. But little by little, it grows stronger and men become filled with it, just as nature manifests itself in the great creatures of the river. It controls our lives. It governs us in everything, little and big. And the sign of the Holy Spirit is the way in which we live. It prevents us from killing. It prevents us from seeking revenge. Rules our lives even in our own homes. We must seek to possess it. And so, governed by the Holy Spirit and their love for the man they call Oganga, the people give of what little they have, that it may be given to those who have even less. And without impatience, they quietly and peaceably wait their turns at the window. Perhaps they do not yet understand it completely, but this is practical Christianity, as far removed from the self-centered savagery they knew a few short years ago, as the mission itself is removed from the tangled jungle that once existed here. Now there is an order and meaning to their lives. There are clean and comfortable houses in which to live. There are visible symbols of love and kindness to replace hate and fear. There is skilled treatment for ills that once were blamed on evil spirits. There's even a new spirit of charity when savages carry in a man who might once have been left to die. One of Dr. Schweitzer's assistants is ready to save him. This man has fallen ill without apparent cause. His wife knows the fear any wife would feel. Will he live? Will he die? The doctor decides to perform a spinal tap. Preparations are quickly made. No time even to remove the sick man's voodoo fetish. Dr. Schweitzer comes to watch and help if needed. The wife looks on doubtfully as alcohol is applied to cotton. This looks much like some of the voodoo magic, except for the needle in the bottle. Certainly Oganga would not use voodoo. Then what is the needle for? Is it to kill the evil spirits? Now the pain, and the first thought, clutch the fetish. The doctor shoves the needle deep, and the fetish is torn away. Surely this will anger the spirits. Look, his life is dripping away. But no, the white man is not worried. Their friend is still breathing. His eyes are opening. Yes, this is the greatest miracle they have ever seen. But wait, even a greater miracle is about to occur. It is stirring now within this man's soul. The white man is praying the miracle will happen. And now it does. Was it an accident, or was it truly a miracle? There's only one way to know. Pick it up, give it back. It was a miracle that occurs over and over here at Lambaréné, yet never loses surprise and triumph for those who watch. White men know, and Africans are learning, that this is the ultimate object of all Albert Schweitzer has done. His whole life devoted to banishing the fear that lurks in the hearts of men, to showing by kindness and compassion and Christian charity that God is love, and to expressing reverence for life by freeing them from their torturing superstitions. Often those who have been freed from superstitions become valuable assistants. This man might have remained a savage, but now he has developed skills that are helpful in treating those who still fear white men. Somehow an injection seems much less strange when it is administered by a man of one's own race. And there is pride in knowing that here at least, one is judged by character, not by color. Certainly there is still pain, but now there is confidence to quiet it. Confidence in the man that becomes confidence in medicine. Confidence that helps the cure. Again, there's a mixture of racial backgrounds. Here, Dr. Schweitzer, an Alsatian, confers with a doctor from France. The patient belongs to one African tribe, the assistant to another, all united in a common cause: defeat of death. Diagnosis: a strangulated hernia, common here in the tropics when muscles grow slack. Dr. Schweitzer agrees an emergency operation is necessary. It must be performed at once. And so in the little room that serves as the mission surgery, the patient is prepared, his wife looking on worriedly, and then the operation begins. Primitive surroundings, but the same careful skill to be found in great hospitals of Europe, and a dedication that keeps the doctor from feeling fatigue even when the tropic night has arrived. Truly, these devoted workers have absorbed Dr. Schweitzer's guiding maxim: reverence for life. Such sights are torment to a man of Dr. Schweitzer's temperament. There's little he can do to stop such barbaric practices in the jungle. True, animals must die if men are not to starve, and yet he is filled with compassion for the pain they feel. But at the mission itself, things are more humane. Here, there's a firm order that no animal may be wantonly killed, and that wounded creatures must be given treatment. The compound is almost a zoo. In the jungle, even the largest and most ferocious creatures are treated with the same humanity by Dr. Schweitzer. He observes them, writes about them, but never kills. There are human creatures to observe, too. Material for a smile, perhaps a sermon. So much like humankind struggling upward from the jungle of ignorance, trying to find the way to God. Then, hardly started, halting fearfully, frightened by things that are hard to understand, twisting things that are simple and innocent into symbols of fear. Finally, abandoning the quest of God and dropping back into ignorance and materialism. And again, the jungle becomes almost a cathedral. Morning mist rises like the incense of an offering. Pools catch pictures of heaven for man to see. Birds on a tree are as beautiful as candles on an altar. Trees and sky and water and flowers blend into harmony as glorious as any anthem. Sometimes there is an actual anthem, when Dr. Schweitzer finds time to play the instrument sent to him by the Paris Bach Society. Bach and Schweitzer, some say, have much in common. Both have facets of poetry, mysticism, religion, but Schweitzer's talents cover an even wider range than those of Bach, for here his hands do more than play. There are 1,000 tasks for his hands as Lambaréné grows through the years. Not only must he preach and teach and heal, but when ground is to be cleared, he must show the workers how to handle saws and axes. When houses are to be built, he must become an architect. He must handle all the work of administration. And somehow, he must gain money for his people's needs. Much of his support comes from his writings, for in odd moments he finds time to set down his thoughts, his knowledge, his experiences. Sometimes he writes philosophy, words to help the restoration of a crumbling civilization, sometimes about Africa, sometimes of his own life, sometimes of animals. And from his pen pours forth a flood of books, translated into many tongues. His monumental work on Bach, his book on civilization and ethics, Out of My Life and Thought, books on religion, on the peoples of Africa, on the activities of the mission itself. And of course, as years go on, Albert Schweitzer's thought and work make him famous. There are books about him by other writers, and magazine articles in the periodicals of almost every country where true Christianity is respected. Albert Schweitzer, living far up a river in equatorial Africa, has become a figure known and loved throughout the world. Back in Germany, he has a house now in Gunsbach, his boyhood home, but he sees it only during trips to Europe. Here, his secretary, Madame Emmy Martin, takes care of his worldwide correspondence. Letters of admiration, letters with contributions, letters offering help of every kind, written in almost every language. Certainly few men in history have had so many friends. Yet friends not only among the lowly, but among the famous. For at gatherings like this, during his rare trips to Europe, he is surrounded by distinguished men and women from every field, all anxious to hear his story from his own lips.